Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Marie-Jeanette. I'm the co-founder of the C Collective, and we're on a mission to accelerate regenerative solutions through our education, design, and marketing expertise. It's a real pleasure to be hosting this event tonight, along with some amazing speakers. So we have Liv, we have Florença, Martin, and Servan, and I will introduce them in a couple of minutes. So, as you know, this week is London Climate Action Week, and there's more than, I think, 300 events happening during those 5 days. So if you're here, it's either because that's the only evening that you had free in this busy week, or maybe one of the speakers made you come because he's a friend or colleague, or it's been maybe because this is the only event talking about regenerative business practices during this climate week. So it means that you are on a really interesting journey into regeneration, and it's you're exploring this journey, which is really ambitious. So you might not know what the final destination is, and it's okay, but you're probably interested in going somewhere beyond just sustainability, potentially tackling more than just carbon or climate change. So welcome. The idea of this event was to give you an opportunity to discover some of the frameworks and thought leaders in this space so that we can support you on this pathway, whether you are here to simply take the plunge into regeneration or maybe accelerate your journey. So let me walk you through the agenda and then our speaker's introduction. So you have the agenda here. We're going to start with a short panel discussion to introduce the key concepts. Then we will go into 3 breakout rooms focusing on each of the key tools and frameworks. So the leadership/interchange journey with Servan, the Doughnut economics framework with Flo, and the 3 horizons with Martin and Liv. So now let me introduce you to introduce our amazing speakers. So we have Liv Sibony. So Liv Sibony is an award-winning entrepreneur and co-founder of Impact Amplified. Thanks for joining us, Liv. We have Martin, who is a futurist and a global ocean, climate, and sustainability expert, as you can see from his background. And we have Servan. She is an ecosystem builder and thinking partner for people who are interested in working towards social and environmental change. And finally, we have Flo, my colleague Flo from the C Collective. She is our regenerative design lead and a practitioner of the Doughnut Economics Action Lab framework. So before we start firing up some questions about the different concepts we're going to cover tonight, I maybe just wanted to get a feel of how well you know the different topics that we're going to be talking about. And maybe we can do that with a quick show of hands on your level of understanding. So maybe we can do 2 hands if you use the tool, 1 hand if you've just maybe heard about it, and no hands if it's your first time you're dealing with these tools. So let's start with the Doughnut economics. So 2 hands, 1 hand, no hand. Okay, so I see a lot of hands. Yes, great. What about 3 horizons? Oh, okay, wow. Oh, Liv is like, you hold the hand. Okay, cool. And then interchange, and by this we mean, you know, the sort of journey of change as a leader. Okay, yes, I see some hands being raised, so it's great. So it means we have some expertise and knowledge around the room. So okay, let's go into the questions. The first questions. And maybe the first one is going to be really around defining the concepts around regeneration. It's because it's become a bit of a buzzword. I mean, certainly not at my family dinners, but like in our space, in the sustainability space. So can we just explain, can we frame what a regenerative business really means? And maybe Flo, I think you have a couple of slides you want to share to illustrate that?
Yes, absolutely. So hello, everyone. Good evening. And I think the first question is one of the most, is like the one that we have to address. Is the most frequent question is like, what is a regenerative business? What's the difference when we talk about sustainability and regeneration? And I think one important point to make is that as entrepreneurs or corporative team members, we should be thinking of moving beyond sustainability, where efforts are still directed to avoid causing more harm. And why is that? That's because we all know that life on the planet has reached a critical point, and now we are facing a polycrisis on all levels of environment and society. And on that point, it's about time that we all understand that as human beings, we are not separated from nature. We are nature, and protecting the environment means protecting all life on Earth. So we must find ways to restore the damage caused by our extractive ways of living and consuming. And so how can we move beyond sustainability? And I will take here the example from this concept, the compass for regenerative business, that was taken from the book Regenerative Enterprise. And I'll use it to present some of its characteristics. So regenerative business, there is an holistic approach, and it tends to look into 5 directions according to this compass. So the first one is the North Star, really. It's about the purpose of this business is having this transformational and evolutional purpose. That's what everyone is going to be following. Then it looks into the planet, and it's how it thinks about how can we be in the right relationship with the planet? How can we give back more than we take? How can we help replenish it? The third point is about people, and this is like how can we move from the BAU human resources to empowering human potential? How can we start thinking about giving people space to unleash their creativity and to thrive? The fourth point then touches upon partners. So this is again like all the parts involved on this activity, and how do we recreate and how can we create the value and redistribute it to everyone involved? And then the fifth point is the places. So there is no sustainability and regeneration without community and places. And a company should start thinking of like seeing people not as customers, but as a citizen, because they have to work in collaboration with them and the local area where they have the impact. So it's again thinking about the places where you are serving and the people you are serving as well. And finally, I think another point that is interesting to show is where you see like the wave on the bottom of the screen. There are like 4 levels on the journey towards regeneration. So we're coming from doing less harm, and this is the typical CSR of companies. And then it starts moving into doing no harm, which is the regular sustainability. But what we're looking now is to move towards being restorative and regenerative. And this is seen as a journey. It's not an endpoint. Let's remember that a systemic change happened like through long periods of time. So the impact might not be visible straight away, but that's why it's so relevant that we find ways to measure the small improvements. So that's the way we can kind of make the case for other people to kind of jump on that wagon as well. And there is an aspiration that everybody can and must contribute to write this new story. We might not have all the answers for what a regenerative business is, but we do have the intention to move away from the competitive mindset and embrace constant flow and evolution. So hopefully that gives you a little taste of, how we see regeneration as the C Collective as well, but obviously like taking into account concepts that have been shared before in other webinars that we presented.
Thanks, Flo. I hope this enlightens you. If you do have more questions also, feel free to put them in the chat. So this is a journey, okay? and you're on it, so that's the good news. But just by attending this session, maybe questions to the other speakers. I mean, on top of what Flo just said, why should business care about regeneration? I don't know, Liv, do you want to share some insight on this?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to.
Short few words.
Yes. So to build on Flo's really good baseline, I guess, at a really basic level, our economy is built on assumptions that growth and our natural resources are infinite. And we now know that this is not the case. So quite simply, we just need to adapt our businesses to the new way of understanding our changing world. And when you see increasing floods, increasing fires, decreasing yields, all of that is showing that the current businesses system is no longer fit for purpose. So if businesses are to survive and ideally thrive, quite simply, they just need to adapt to the context.
Thanks, Liv. Martin, any other reasons why business should care and start applying those principles?
Absolutely. So first of all, it is all about the stakeholder engagement, and some of the things Flo mentioned, in terms of really regenerating and restoring. It's also about restoring trust and regenerating the purpose of business and the purpose of business with your stakeholders. So talk chain approaches. So really connecting with your suppliers, with your consumers, with the people that do the production, with the people that do the marketing. If you really want to engage in changing, mentioned the poly crisis, we've got pollution, climate change, biodiversity loss, conflict. If you want to tackle those multiple crises, you have to have the resilience, and you can only do that if you build that resilience with your stakeholders to really build economic, social, and environmental justice. So it's about responding to the systems that have caused the poly crisis.
Okay. I think Martin was breaking up a little bit. So it's about, if I summarize, there was this notion of resilience in the context of finite resources, in the context of different risks, and also achieving this resilience through the system, with the system, with your stakeholders that you are working with. And so this also links nicely to the people aspect of this. So we've talked about the organizational journey and given some concepts around this, but there's also something that needs to happen at the leadership level in every human who's making decisions. And this is where I want to ask you, Servan, what's involved at the leadership level? What's the challenge?
Well, thank you, Mary, for inviting me, and hello, everybody. If regeneration is a practice that ought to bring back life, it triggers the following thoughts in me. It just involves regenerative leadership as being the expression and the intersection of ways of being in the world, with the world, for the world of now, and the world of tomorrow, all at once. And these behaviors, when you express that, when you embody them and you express them together, they can produce or give birth to renewed independent thinking and interactions and new forms of life. It's just like I've got the image of a machine, or not a machine, but something that's moving forward, a movement, perpetual movement. It's and that happens in a world where some businesses and infrastructures will be relevant and others won't be. And that's fine. And as a leader, then you have a role. You will be a seed or you will be part of the compost. And so no pressure, but bottom line, you'll need to be more of an independent thinker and very, very much aware of everything that is in and around you. Okay. I'm done.
I really like this analogy of seed or compost, and to frame that positively, if yes, there is a composting story, so it's the end of a cycle, but that can be, you know, the beginning of a new story, of a new business that you're going to set up, because however you tried, your past business was just not future-proof and relevant in this new context. So thanks very much for this analogy. Great. So now that we've defined the concepts and we understand them better, now the challenge is to understand how do we get there. And that's what we're trying to answer tonight together. So to that end, I would like our speakers to just talk you through the different sessions and tools they're going to present during the breakout room sessions. And it's like they're going to pitch their session to you, basically. And it's like reverse pitching mode, actually. So maybe let's start with Flo. Can you tell us about what you're going to cover in your Doughnut economics mapping session?
Yes, absolutely. I'll tell a little bit about the history of the Doughnut as well. So, this is one of the frameworks that was designed to help you visualize your impact and strategize your regenerative action. So the theory of the Doughnut economics was first brought to life by Kate Raworth in 2012, and it was through like an Oxfam report, and then the concept got traction internationally. Her book, if you haven't read, it's very much worth reading. It's Doughnut Economics, 7 Ways to Think Like a 21st Century Economist. It further explored the economic thinking needed to bring humanity into the doughnut. And what does she mean about the doughnut? So it is the core concept at the heart of Doughnut economics. We need to think of this, as we see here, is a compass for human prosperity in the 21st century, with the aim of meeting all the needs of people within the means of the living planet. And you can see it consists of 2 concentric rings. So right at the center, we can see the social foundation. And this is for us to ensure that no one is left falling short of life's essentials. For example, it's education, housing, water, food, energy, everything that keeps us alive. And on the outside ring stands the ecological ceiling. And that's meant to ensure that humanity does not collectively overshoot the planetary boundaries that protects Earth life supporting systems. So this would be, at the moment, everything that is like around the freshwater withdrawals, or we're thinking about biodiversity loss, the use of fertilizers, the ocean acidification, and all the other ones here. So in between the ecological ceiling and the social foundation, there is the donut-shaped space, and this is where it's considered ecologically safe and socially just space where humanity can thrive. And this, if we were to look into, if we take a snapshot of this compass today, we can clearly see that the world is out of balance. So this graph is from the Stockholm Resilience Center, and it shows how quickly we have transgressed these boundaries. And so we have increased the risks to people and the ecosystems we are all part of. The global economy has been overshooting multiple planetary boundaries, leaving billions of people falling short on life essentials. So the starting point of the Doughnut economics is to change the goal from endless GDP growth to thriving in the doughnut. And this framework is not only theoretical, it's being successfully applied to cities and businesses. Here are a few examples. So one of it is on the city level is Melbourne, is one of the cities that took the first step back in 2020. And they wanted to develop community insights around a regenerative future, following the impact by the post-pandemic economic crisis, the rising of social inequality, and the climate and biodiversity emergency. And they explore access to knowledge, locally grown food, and actions to embrace and connect diverse cultures. Then we have Triodos Bank. So the ethical bank utilizes the Doughnut framework to evaluate potential investments and ensure they are contributing to a socially and environmentally just future. They prioritize businesses that are aligned with the Doughnut principles. And then third, we have the very known clothing company, Patagonia. They have redesigned the ownership model to lock in the commitment to protecting and restoring nature. And so they put Earth as a shareholder. and they set up a trust that controls all the shares with voting rights, and another environmental no-profit collective that controls all the shares with dividend rights. That means they separated money and power, and it draws inspiration from the steward ownership model that is presented on the book. And so finally, we at the C Collective, we have been using the deep understanding of environmental polycrisis and solutions. We have been tapping into design thinking as a practice and now the Doughnut economics framework to support the different needs of businesses with specialized services. So we aim to onboard business on this journey through a half-day workshop that is divided in 4 phases. So the first phase is the one that we'll have a little trial today on the breakout room, and that's the rapid Doughnut mapping. And what we do is we use the Doughnut framework to explore the impacts and dependencies of our organization in social and environmental scenarios. And then we look into regenerative and distributive ambitions as opposed to the divisive and degenerative practices that are the take, make, use, and lose. There is the BAU at this moment. And this won't be done today, but this is during a half-day workshop, is an opportunity you have to co-create and brainstorm with other stakeholders and think about transformative ideas to align your business to regenerative and distributive actions. The third step is to know your business design, and this is kind of like looking inside and analyzing how your current business model blocks or enable the transformation you want to bring about. So it's really being very sincere about that. And the fourth piece is redesigning your business. So here is where we try to identify the acupuncture points, as we call in systemic thinking. They are the entry points of change, the points that can enable the change. And so the objective of this workshop is to provide you the framework to identify the key areas for improvement and potential solutions that are pertinent to the reality of your organization. So it's something that you will find, but we will help you go through this journey. And the main takeaways is a high-level plan of action to get you started. Of course, this is the first step, but as a collective, we are prepared to support the continuation of this journey through design and implementation expertise.
Right. So if you want to give a go to step 1, this is the workshop for you. And you already have a few people that are interested. Flo, you may have to, you may be oversubscribed. We'll see. So now let's talk about 3 horizons. Liv and Martin, I don't know who is going to present. Over to you guys.
I'm happy to go first, and then I can pass over to Martin. So I am Liv Sibony, as Marie mentioned, and really what I do as co-founder of Impact Amplified is we're looking at supporting the just transition to upskill people to help them move towards being as regenerative as possible, wherever people are at on their journey in business. So really the 3 horizons, I would say, is a sort of forecasting futures tool. And it helps you to define your vision and then adjust your actions along the way so that you can keep adapting according to the changing context of this world. So it's a very kind of flexible framework that helps you move along with the times in this fast changing environment. So as an example, in my work during training programs and workshops, one of the things we do is, for example, during carbon literacy training, we help people who are new to sustainability to understand the context of their business, where they sit, where their industry sits within the system, and understand firstly where business as usual is no longer fit for purpose, and then hone in on a vision for an ideal future that they'd like to create. And then importantly, deep dive into the innovations that they see around them that they can look to collaborate with, adopt, support in order to start that transition and then keep adapting along the way. Another example is where people already working in sustainability can actually focus more on how they build allies and bring more stakeholders on the journey with them. So oftentimes as sustainability professionals, we might feel that sense of sort of loneliness and isolation, and how do we turn that around from feeling like we're working against the grain and actually understand how we can create a narrative that brings people with us on the journey so that we can all amplify our impact. And it's really, it can also work for people who already know what actions they want to take in sustainability and what is next, but actually really forming a strategy to decide who the best people are to bring on board with them, both within and outside of the organization. So it works as a mapping tool, a strategy tool, but is very dynamic, and you can keep using it again and again to update it.
Martin, did you want to add something?
Yes, absolutely. And thanks a lot, Liv, for the introduction to Three Horizons. So I'm Martin. I focus on the future. In the past, I was the head of the World Ocean Initiative, hence this background, looking at the future of the ocean economy, from the future of food, energy, and, you know, seaweeds and aquaculture and so on. But also most recently, I was global director theorized a lot. So for example, and building on what Liv said, we use it a lot to take a systemic lens on change. So it's really about society and government to really understand the patterns in the systems in which they operate over time. So if they really want to be a regenerative business, they have to understand the systems around them and start to shape them and the goals of the system towards regeneration and identifying these power dynamics in the system. So where are the managerial voices that want to keep everything as business as usual, as Liv said? Where are the entrepreneurial voices, you know, that are trying to change things, the innovations in Horizon 2? And then, you know, where do we see the visionary voices, you know, the future, the dream scenario we want to see in Horizon 3, this kind of future viable, more just and regenerative future. And it's also about the quality of the transitions. And that's something I've been focusing on a lot at Forum for the Future. It's about, you know, the H2 plus, so the Horizon 2 that is really moving us towards that viable future, looking at the energy system as things like hydrogen, for example. Is hydrogen a solution that moves us to a more viable future, or does it actually hold us back? Is it just kind of reinforcing the status quo, for example, or, you know, looking at different like food solutions? And this example is actually one that I just want to briefly highlight, which is something that, you know, I personally have been working a lot on the future of the food system. And what you can see here is just an example of how the food system could be mapped in the horizon, extracted land and the ocean, primarily to bring profit, efficiency, and these kind of things. And also, you know, as we know, with the current system, it has really led to and contributed to many of the poly crises that that Flo mentioned. So, for example, the nature crisis. I mean, the food system doesn't actually help to regenerate nature. Culture, for example, it reduces biodiversity. It also creates lots of waste. You know, 1/3 of food is wasted. Also, it contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, and so on. So that's really the status quo. But then we look at the future, the viable future, which could be just and regenerative, building on some of the regenerative agriculture practices that we have seen, or even building a circular food system where there's no waste, but even the byproducts of agriculture are repurposed. But how do we get from the current status quo to a just and regenerative food system? And so we're looking at these innovations, you know, the exciting bits that are happening, and looking at, for example, the, you know, seafood, you know, seaweed, aquaculture, you know, fish farms. Are these actually helping with a more just and regenerative future? Are they actually holding us back? Are the practices within aquaculture, for example, holding us back? And things like lab-grown food, alternative proteins, and these kind of things, are they actually solutions to a more just and regenerative system, or are they actually reinforcing the exploitative patterns we've seen before? So it's about identifying the quality of the transitions, and that can really help the businesses to map themselves where they are on these transitions. So it's actually a tool to identify the system, but it's also a tool to identify where you are within your system.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for bringing those examples as well. So what's really interesting is that these two tools are really helping us get a multi-dimensional vision and strategy in place. And you have the the Doughnut mapping, which is this like 4-circle, 360 environmental, boundaries, social needs. So that's one dimension. And then you have the sort of future dimension with the 3 horizons. So you're looking at what's happening forward and different horizons. And then you have another dimension, which is more inward looking, which is the sort of interchange. And this is what Sevan is going to be looking into. Over to you, Sevan.
Thank you. Well, let me start with a good old quote by a woman called Nancy Klein. She's the author of this Thinking Environment, the developer of Thinking Environment. And she says the quality of everything we do depends on the quality of the thinking we do first. And the quality of our thinking depends on the way we treat each other whilst we are thinking. And so to breathe life in everything we do together, to coalesce, to listen to each other more, to co-create simultaneously for and with the world now, and listen to future generations too, we need some conditions. And findings show that there are some behaviors and conditions which, when put together, enable us to accomplish this quality of thinking. And we'll call them the 10 components of a thinking environment. Take them as behaviors, ways of being in the world. And as you can see them on the screen, there are attention, equality, ease, difference, information, encouragement, appreciation, feelings, the power of incisive questions that elicit imagination and generate the new, and place. And each component is powerful individually, but the presence of all 10 working together gives these processes transformative impact. So as a leader in this ecosystem, I would invite you to contemplate 2 things: attentions and assumptions. And so just briefly to give a little bit of to open the window on this, the power of attention. We know that inner change starts with attention. So not the attention that you might have when you try to multitask, obviously. When we give generative attention, it's an attention that calls on your most electrifying presence. It calls on your desire to be curious about where the people around you or nature in front of you is going next. And it's an attention that makes you more engaged, more connected, more empathetic. But at the same time, it's an attention that doesn't need you to compete, to rush, to fear, or to feel urgency. It doesn't need you to reply. So it's a special thing, a special way of being in the world, that specific attention. So just maybe if you want to recall really quickly a time when you felt that someone gave you really the most delicious attention. They were fully present and connected, and I can see Liva, you smile already. Maybe that's something that pops up in your mind. So you got a sense of being heard, and you felt that you were, even that when the other person was not saying anything, you felt that you were in co-creation. You felt trust. You couldn't put the finger on it, but there is something good about it. You felt belonging. You felt free. Maybe it's a moment where you were not attached to the absolute end point or finish line. You felt it was a continuum. There was attention in the room. The person in front of you gave you attention, but they were actually attention itself. So when more and more people practice this electrifying attention, I like to call it this way, this uninterrupted attention, with no agenda other than that to support you or the earth to flourish, then we get to something extraordinary. Now there's the attention on one side and there are assumptions on the other side. Now, assumption, as some of you know, are beliefs or constructs. They're like pieces of code in your head that drive your behavior. And findings show that it's untrue assumptions that lived as true that limit our thinking and therefore our actions.
Wow.
And we keep being extractive when we keep these untrue assumptions lived as true. We keep being extractive. We keep powering over. We are languishing instead of flourishing. For instance, some example of assumption might be, I'm not worthy of love. I have no agency at all whatsoever on the impact I have in the world. I'm not sure it is actually categorically true. So what if it's untrue? And what is true instead and liberating? So we're going to, together in this workshop, we're going to experiment giving attention and receiving the most delicious attention, generative attention. So we won't do theory, we'll be experimenting, I don't know which word, pick the one that suits you best, practicing being so present that you can become invisible. And we'll use one application of the 11 application of the thinking environment, which is thinking rounds. And we explore how to challenge assumptions and spark new ideas. And yeah, we'll see how you want to take it forward in your own organization and try for yourself to being a thinking environment yourself. Okay, and for yourself and for each other, all together. Happy now. And we'll use what matters to you, topics that matters to you, and we'll dive into the topic this way. And if you come and join, you're so fully welcome, but please with your screen on so that we can connect, if that's possible. Thank you.
Wow, fascinating. Right. So now we've heard about the 3 sessions coming. So Flo is the great master. She's pulling the strings now, and she's going to allocate people based on your wishes, but also based on making sure we have a fairly even number across the 3 rooms. If you don't get the choice that you had put in there, don't be disappointed, because it means you will be exploring some new territories, maybe coming out of your comfort zone. And you will also get the wrap up of the session at the end, where everybody will share some thoughts and learnings from the session. And you will also get access to the material and some of the recordings. So yeah, so Flo is going to create some breakout rooms. I think we have to be back in the main room at 1:15, so that will give us 30 minutes to explore. So a bit less than planned, but we need to just go back for the wrap up. Yeah, so Flo will, I know it's always stressful to manage the breakout room, so I'll just gonna shut up and leave you to do it in just in a couple of minutes. If you do have some questions, I saw there was a question on how can we measure that a company is actually regenerative across all these dimensions. So we might be able to answer that in the session on Doughnut economics mapping or in the conclusion.
Right. So I just wanted to, did we share? We need to share the link to Figma.
I think you can, yeah, I can share the link.
Yeah.
If you want
so,
to, because I've got it here.
So just to say, everyone should be assigned. I'm just having, I don't know why is that I'm having a problem to assign Anne. I don't know if it's because if you can help me with that, Marie. It just doesn't appear the option. Everyone else is already assigned, so we just figure out how to do the other one. But what's important is, like, if you don't, you probably have used Miro or Mural, all these canvases. So we're using FigJam, which is part of Figma. So you should all have access to it because it should be open. So I actually am showing on the screen now that I realized. So please try the link. Let us know here if you're having any trouble to enter. And I think within the groups, we can help everyone if you have any problems, but it should be very simple. You have post-its where you can write on it and move around, and everyone can participate collectively. But if you have any questions, just let us know.
Yeah, and Anne, if you are stuck in limbo, I assume that you can go into the nav bar and look at rooms and see if there's one you can join. Yeah, so Flo, maybe let's just open the room, get everybody in there, and then I can help Anne.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so the link
and
is
I have
there
shared the
on-
Figma
on
link in the chat.
Yeah, okay, let me open the room. Yeah.
To see you on the other side.
Just to reply very quickly, Anne, sorry, everyone, but you would attempt to have one mapping. You want to have the big view, the systemic view, and then you can start picking how you solve those.
Thank you.
Hello, hello, welcome back. I know this felt really short, right? But we also want to have a chance to wrap things up and also share the learnings from the different rooms. And obviously there's more to this, you know, the exercise, the thinking process doesn't stop here. This was more like a teaser. So if you feel frustrated, that's also a positive thing, right? In a way. So we have about 11 minutes to wrap up this event and leave you to, you know, do whatever you want to do, dinner, drinks, back with your family. So what I'm going to ask in the next, yeah, we're going to spend maybe 6 or 7 minutes going around the 3 lead facilitators to do a very short 2-minute debrief of the session, the key insight, learnings, feelings. And while the facilitators are doing this, I also invite you maybe to sharing this into the chat. Any like lightning information, lightning moment, any interest in knowing more, any questions that came out of this, feel free to share them through the chat and we'll try to cover them at the end or maybe as a follow-up. So who wants to start the debrief?
Should be room 1.
Room 1. Okay. Seven then. Sorry to. Yeah, let's start with you, Seven.
Yeah, my computer was just is so sluggish. God think. Right. So we were a tiny group with some tech issues. So but they've been wonderful at thinking and engaging together. I think there's one we've experimented thinking and generating more thoughts together and really give each other attention and picking up some assumptions already and flipping untrue assumption as, you know, as and flipping them as into true assumptions and see what's the possibilities. But what I want to give to you is, if you are in that position, in a thinking environment, there are 4 questions that you can ask yourself. Do I really want my team and my stakeholders to think well for themselves? Always. And if I do want my team or stakeholders to think for themselves always, what do I need to help them do that? And how is that different from what I usually do? And now, how far can my team or my stakeholders go in their own thinking before they need mine? And how much further can they go? And how much further even than that? And the 4th question is, how do I know for sure that what I'm about to say will be of more value than what my team or stakeholders are about to think? I don't know. And so I shot myself in the foot here because I should have given Marielle the opportunity to speak. And Justin was there too, but Justin had some technical issues. So I wonder what more, Marielle or Justin, do you think or feel or want to say?
I think it was, it's really, we don't take enough time to think and to to reflect and to listen to others. And I think it's really helpful. I've actually done this in quite a few spaces where even difficult issues is actually just being quiet and one person talking at a time and listening to each other. And it's really powerful because you not only have a chance to think and reflect yourself, but you have the opportunity to hear other people's views and what they're going to bring. And that helps to quietly shape your thinking. So it's more regenerative. So I think it's really powerful and well facilitated. Thank you.
Thank you, Sevan. So shall we do the same for room 2 in a couple of minutes, wrapping up? I know there was a lot. Flo?
Sure. Okay, so I'll just quickly say, and maybe guys, you can jump right in, but obviously it's a complex world, and we try to dive into the construction business because
Flo, sorry, we can't see you in case you know. We can't see your lovely face.
I didn't realize.
Sorry,
I didn't realize. So basically, with our group, we chose one of the business and with Mauricio, and he's an engineer, and so we went to the construction business, which is such an interesting one to think about impacts. Obviously, it just shows how deep it can get and how difficult it might be to map. And that's what I would say, like, we just start realizing, for an example, well, when you're like when you're installing solar panels, right? So there is a lot of positive part in terms of the energy, but then it has another consequence and the challenges of other resources if it's not a circular design and the batteries and so on. And so one of the recommendations I would say like this, the idea of the mapping is supposed to be collaborative. The more different expertise you bring to the table, the better, especially thinking about the impact on the environment. And you realize that some of those, like the energy pumps, and so they might have, the resources that you're using to build, they might have impact even on the ocean acidification. So it's a lot of different impacts that you can map by using the arrows and so on. And just realizing as well, like some might be like the same thing can be a positive and a negative impact that you might want. What you really want is to get the view, map everything, and be as sincere as you can, because that will give you the clue of what should be the battles that you're going to start picking to make the transformation. So I guess that was like the main highlight. If you guys want to add anything from the team, from the group, please feel free to come in.
Excellent summary.
Great, and choosing your battles. But before you can choose your battles, you have to have this thorough assessment across the various dimensions. Great. And that leaves us with room 3.
Great. So I will start showing what happened in the room, and then I know Martin has a sort of broader conclusion as well. And we can also get the participants to contribute. So what we did is we actually looked at what a change. Sometimes, change makers are wonderful agents for change, but their clients might actually only look at change in a really kind of operational perspective. So how can change makers work in a world where they can use their power to really bring about regenerative business, because it's not always so easy when you're sort of on a contract to do so. So we first looked at what is no longer working with, and particularly change makers in the change consultants in the food industry. So we first looked at why business as usual is no longer fit for purpose, and understanding all of the shareholder pressures, fear of change, this sort of despair that you keep trying change and it doesn't really work because you're actually probably just trying to kind of think in the old sort of pattern, and people say stuck there. We then looked at this sort of perfect vision of a future that we could imagine, and that future that we came up with in 10 years' time in the world is sort of full of, green buildings that are absorbing carbon, communities that are interconnected, that grow foods together, food and nature as part of these of the communities. Everything is local, sustainably grown, etc. And then we were trying to imagine what innovations we can see now that are already happening in pockets to bring us towards this vision of a future that we created. So we actually saw that things like, Olio, for example, as a platform, helps people actually reduce food waste and bring communities together. So there's both a sort of community, environment, and actually sort of social element all intertwined together in how that works. As one of the examples, I've suddenly forgotten the other example that we had, but we then actually were trying to sort of think of how we go about to then bring clients with us on that journey when sometimes there's a bit of opposition. And actually, in a really pragmatic way, we realized that we actually need to have more tangible solutions of where businesses have gone about bringing change in their worlds to be able to then celebrate those examples with others. So maybe actually focusing on some case studies with examples that businesses have undertaken change, so that we can then bring them to the more resistant businesses and show through positive example what has happened. So that is a sort of how we looked at it in our room. And I know short on time, but Martin, if you want to add your sort of broader conclusion, then we'll get the participants to add after you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Liv. And yeah, sorry about the tech problems I was facing. But yeah, so the key conclusion that the exercise showed is actually how important it is to identify the goals of the system. It's starting with Horizon 1. What are actually the goals of the current system in which we operate? And you can see that with some of the the extractive patterns, the focus on productivity and efficiency, and then really identifying the power relationships. And some of the examples and the discussion that you summarized, Liv, shows how important it is to listen to some of those kind of, what are the dominant voices currently, and what are the less dominant voices, and which voices need to come to the fore. So seeing some of the things from Horizon 2, those innovations already now, like for example, things like regenerative agriculture, agroecology, lab-grown food, those kind of things, are these kind of voices already appearing? And as Liv said, it's about identifying the case studies of Horizon 3 already happening in Horizon 1, and then identifying the quality of the transitions that we need to move the needle. So when we look at, for example, the legislation that's needed, the impact investment that might be needed, the technology that might be needed to move us there. But having identified the goals and the patterns of the existing Horizon 1 and seeing some of the innovation of Horizon 2 can then help us to identify what is needed to get to Horizon 3. So it's a really good exercise to identify goals, patterns, and the shift of power dynamics.
Yeah, thank you, Martin, for this really good point around the goals of the system. So we are going to conclude our session today. I think Flo has an offer to suggest, and you might also want to share in the chat any reactions, key insight, something that was inspired by this session, as Flo mentions the workshop that we are offering that will also blend a lot of the activities that we've covered today.
That's great. So yes, I think obviously, like, we all touched upon different ways that we can transition. With the C Collective, we use some of these frameworks and trying always to collaborate with people who can help us bring these ideas into action. And so we are now looking for 1 or 2 businesses to join our pilot program, where we'll facilitate a pro bono half-day workshop around the donut economics to support your team to identify and redesign key areas of the business. So if you guys, you have more than one, it needs to be more collaborative, but you have the curiosity to try as well at the donut, get in touch with us. You can use the QR code as well to register your interest, and you do like a first come, first serve basis. But yeah, it would be great so we can start testing the way we can bring this practices to life, and also help you kind of look into details of your business and how you can move forward on this transition journey to regeneration.
Great. So I think we're going to close. I really want to thank everyone for their participation. Thank you to our amazingly inspiring speakers. We'd happily spend the entire evening together talking about these different topics. We will send some further info and a recording of this session to you guys. Feel free to get in touch with our speakers tonight listed here. And yeah, thank you again for being here. And let's continue supporting each other to be the regeneration. Bye, guys. Have a lovely
Thanks,
evening.
everyone.